The Sheffield gym at Winco Bank, where Billy Joe Saunders is currently preparing for his WBO middleweight title defence, has always been an exponent of the sweet science of boxing. But trainer Dominic Ingle has moved the science angle to a new level and called in the sports science experts at Sheffield Hallam University to support his regular training programmes. For Billy Joe Saunders, that meant a recent gruelling session in the boxing science laboratory. Tough work, especially ahead of your regular training session. But what can boxing science and companies like them offer elite fighters?
Almost everything that we do, we have a number associated with it, so we monitor absolutely everything. So the amount of variables that we were monitoring with Billy today, we had his heart rate on, different aspects of his heart rate we can look at. We were measuring blood lactate, we were measuring his oxygen saturation, we were measuring his speeds. In our strength training sessions, we'll obviously look at the amount of weight that's lifted, the amount of reps that's performed and sets that's performed as well, but we can also look at the speeds in which boxers are lifting as well, their weights, and we can see whether they're getting faster at the same weight, which tells us they're getting stronger.
Right, kick on now, this is the last one you're going to do. Right, kick on, go on, Bill, go on. Well done.
We use the altitude tent differently to where you might think of altitude training. So when you think of altitude, you think of endurance athletes, you think of Mo Farah, you think of him going to Kenya and train at extended periods there. So what we use it for is we decrease the oxygen in the tent, which makes it harder for our boxers to run. And what that does is then it reduces the mechanical strain on the muscles. They can't run as fast, so they can't produce the same amount of force, but because it's at simulated altitude, we still get that cardiorespiratory stimulus, we still get that demand on the heart and the lungs. That was a pretty tough session, you know, from the lactate values that we were seeing from him. He was working really hard there, he was getting up there into that very, very tough zone, into the red zone.
Listen, I've trained all my life. Been in the gym since I've been 5 years old. 28 now. Trained everywhere up and down the country, England squad. But it don't get no better than that, because for one, you can't slow down because you're on that machine, and for two, it feels like you're running with 5 or 6 blankets over your head, which is very good. And I was getting better and better each time I went on, so it's a good sign. I felt more comfortable each time I went on.
In comparison to high-profile team sports such as football and rugby, professional boxing has perhaps been slow to embrace the testing and methodology used in sports science. But can a measurable, science-based and backed programme really provide that edge in the ring?
The percentage improvements, you know, can be really big or they can be really small. For example, in Formula 1, teams are looking for that 0.1% improvement. In cycling, they're still looking for that 1% improvement. In boxing, we're still looking at 10%. You know, what can we do? What's simple, what's basic, what's effective to get those 10% improvements? Because that's going to have a huge impact on boxers' performance.
That's interesting data and analysis for any fighter. But why has professional boxing been so slow to take up what sports science can offer?
I think that's, you know, more to do with coaches on the whole, that, you know, everybody wants to be an expert at everything, but you can't be an expert across all fields. You can't, you know. I'm not even a boxing expert, but I'm a good boxing coach, and, you know, there's better people out there than me, know how to condition athletes in a different type of way. You know, back in the day we'd have skipping, speedball, all this what they call old school type of training, which is all right. You know, I can do all the training with these guys, but it's got to be the right type of training, you know, in the right heart rate zones, the right intensity. And the good thing about going up to Sheffield Hallam University, you can tell by certain tests that they do whether the training that he's doing in this gym is effective, you know, as an athlete, and today we've seen there it is.
While boxing hasn't been quick to embrace new technology, some sports science techniques are certainly not new. Back at the lab and Billy Joe's results are in, and things are looking good, especially for a fighter who's been occasionally accused of struggling for fitness and stamina despite his top-level career.
The one thing that really did surprise me is that, considering we're simulated high altitude, your amount of oxygen in your blood didn't drop that much. It was down from normal. This is normally like 98%, 99%, so it dropped, but it didn't drop to mid-70s, which is what you might expect. So you're really, really quite well adapted to this type of altitude work. So really quite surprised by that. But yeah.
It's living in Barry's loft, that's why. I'm up high, ain't I? Breathing it in.
It only works if the athlete can commit to the programme. Just because you're on that programme, if you're not hitting the numbers or the targets and doing what these guys are asking you to do, it's not going to be effective. So it's what I call the X factor. Everything's there for you, the machines, the testing, but if you haven't got the X factor, what's going to make you push into that zone, it's a waste of time for you as an athlete because you can't hit the numbers they want you to hit.
Oh, you never enjoy it, but it would have been something that would have been beneficial probably earlier on in my career, but you know, it wasn't. We are here now, you know, so I've got to make it count.
Whether the additional sports science support pays dividends against David Lemieux in Canada on December the 16th remains to be seen. But there's little doubt that Billy Joe Saunders will be in the shape of his life when he reaches Montreal.
Good work.